"This is the captain! All hands to the emergency escape pods!" The repeating klaxon indicating the battle was lost had been sounding for 4 minutes and 29 seconds. During that time, 8 crew members had lost their lives. Some had turned to sheer panic, and their fight or flight instinct had been scrambled. As another hit struck the hull of the Bellevue, metal beneath the impact twisted and screamed for mercy before being ripped away with the decompression. Darnell Franklin had been next to that bulkhead. As the violent nature of the scene unfolded, his body was torn backwards, impacting with the now jagged edges of the tattered hull, the vacuum of space using it to slice Darnell's body into 6 uneven pieces. As his blood began to collect in perfectly rounded globules outside of the ship, the emergency force field kicked in, numbing the effect of the chaos. The Bellevue was not a sizable ship by any means. Designed for a crew of 150, it was ergonomically designed. No wasted space, no wasted luxuries. And up until 27 minutes ago, it had been this crew's home for almost 7 years. The narrow corridors wound around the ship's structure, like honeycomb, each hallway connecting to another to maximize both accessibility and functionality. Sat at the top of the ship was the bridge, and it was the actions in this particular room that had led to what was surely going to be the Bellevue's imminent destruction.
"Roman, there's no response from the escape pods. They're locked in place. I've got crew in there that can't evacuate."
The panicked voice of the operations officer, Drusilla Ransom, could barely be heard through the noise of micro-explosions, the warning sirens, and the screams of the wounded being helped down toward the medical bay. The captain, Roman Knight, on the other hand, remained resolute and determined that his ship would not go down at the hands of pirates. "Hunter, get down to deck 3 and blow the clamps on the escape pods manually. Get those crew members free." His first officer, Hunter Dresden, simply nodded at his captain and sprinted for the doors at the rear of the bridge, stopping momentarily to glance at Drusilla. "I'll see you soon, sweetheart," he spoke softly to her before leaving the bridge. Drusilla felt a tear roll down her cheek, which was exacerbated by the fact the new impact from weapons fire took out their internal sensors. She could no longer see where anyone was on board, including Hunter.
"Captain, what are your orders?" shouted Weapons Officer Noah Sackett.
His face sported wide eyes and an expression of pure fear and uncertainty. Roman leaned in his chair to the left and ran his opposite hand across his face. On the view screen in front of him, he could see a third vessel approaching. He knew the second they were in range, that would be the end of him, his crew, and any hope they had of finding what they had been searching for. "Weapons status, Noah." A few taps into the console later, and Noah gave his answer. It didn't make for encouraging hearing.
"All 4 disruptor cannons are offline. The power cells have been destroyed. There's no way to fix them. The 4 torpedo bay's gone too. I mean, that whole fucking section's just gone.
"Noah!" screamed Roman. "Cut the bullshit and focus for me here. What do we have?" Noah closed his eyes and took a deep breath as yet another shot rocked the ship. The communications station exploded in a shower of shattered glass, fractured wall panels, and bundles of severed wiring. The crew member stationed there was blown to pieces.
We have 1 torpedo left available in the rear bay, but we don't have main engines to turn the ship to use it, and we have 3 targets."
Roman cursed at their luck. This had been a potential salvage mission, and now half his crew were dead. And pretty soon, the rest would be joining them. He had been warned by so many people he had spoken to that this would be a trap. They had warned him the area was swimming with pirates, desperate to strip any ship that wandered into their territory. Resources were scarce across the galaxy, and there was no unity between people anymore. "Think, Roman, think." An idea came to him in an instant, but it wouldn't be easy. He looked down towards the pilot's seat, and although her head was pouring with blood, matting her blonde hair to her shirt, his pilot, Samantha, was still at the controls. Huh, she was a tough cookie. Had she not been such an exceptional pilot, Roman would have had her retrained into security. Sam, talk to me. What kind of movement do we have?
Well, boss, we have no star drive, no impulse power, and minimal thrusters. We're as close as you can get to a sitting duck. Minimal thrusters. That might just do it.
Drew, can we channel whatever energy we have left into the thrusters? Everywhere except the weapons? Drusilla checked her console, and despite the damage, the bypass conduits were still functioning, albeit at minimal power.
I can do it, but it's going to surge through the entire system and blow out everything. We'll be lucky to stay in one piece.
Roman looked around at his crew. Each one nodded in turn. They knew if they didn't try this, then one piece would be a best-case scenario. Noah, when the ship swings round, I want that torpedo shoved down the lead ship's throat. Understand?
Yes, sir.
Sam, when the thrusters swing us halfway round, I want you to vent the rest of the fuel we have and cut the thrusters. The momentum should carry us round. I want those ships sat in a cloud of flammable shit. Got it? Samantha smiled as she realized what he was planning.
You got it, boss.
Nat. Roman stopped as he realized his communications officer was now just chunks of seared flesh on the floor next to a completely destroyed communications console. Does anyone have access to communications?
I have internal comms rerouted here, offered Drusilla.
Open a channel to the crew. An audible chime echoed around the bridge and traveled along every corridor still intact within the ship. Roman's deep and gravelly voice boomed throughout the ship. All hands, this is the captain. We are about to try a last-ditch attempt to get the ship clear and safe. If this works, we're going to be propelled fast and hard away from the battle. Force fields won't work, structural integrity will be compromised, and there's a huge risk that we'll be blown to pieces. But if we don't, those thieving bastards are going to do that for us anyway. I say we take 'em out with us. Get yourselves to any safe place you can find, and hold on. Drusilla closed the channel, and Roman gripped the arms of his chair tightly. The third ship was now in range. They were out of time. Now! Drusilla fiercely hit her control panel, sending every morsel of power not connected to the weapons surging through a single bypass conduit. As it did so, from the very base of the Bellevue, conduits exploded. Walls blew out from their panels, pipes came crashing down from the ceiling, and more holes were torn in the side of the ship. The cascading effect lasted mere seconds, but the devastation to the ship was immense. When the power reached the thrusters, they fired into life, indicated on Samantha's panel at 506% power. The ship swung violently to starboard, the force of which caused the already buckled ship to creak and groan as if in pain. As the back of the Bellevue reached 90 degrees from its previous position, Samantha cut the power and initiated a fuel dump. Sparkling vapor cascaded from the rear of the engines, and as the momentum carried the ship round to a full about face, that same momentum threw the fuel into the three advancing ships, which had now taken up an attack posture. The Bellevue was in position. Fire! Noah launched the final torpedo, a flash of green briefly lighting up the rear of the ship. The view screen switched to an aft view, and Roman slowly climbed to his feet as he watched it soar ever closer to the pirate vessels. Everyone was silent. Their attackers realized too late. The lead ship attempted to turn, but as the torpedo hit the fuel cloud, it ignited around all three ships. The lead ship's nose ignited with such force it blew it away from the rest of the vessel, sparking multiple explosions throughout the ship. 3 seconds later, and it blew apart entirely. The close proximity to the other two ships caught them in its wake, and they too were consumed by fire. Momentary elation ran through Roman's body before he saw the shockwave of what had just happened flying towards them at breakneck speed. "Everybody hang on!" he screamed. The shockwave hit the Bellevue so hard it tore both engines from the side of the ship, drifting away in random directions until they were nowhere to be seen. The remaining mass of the ship burst forward, rolling over and over in the wake of the wave, bulkheads crumbling, fire tearing through sections of the corridors, vaporizing anyone in its way. On the escape pod level, Hunter was clinging on to the support beams for dear life as the artificial gravity failed. He had managed to free 3 escape pods, but 2 had been struck by the severed engines and destroyed, and the third was caught in the initial blast.
Bridge! Come in! Can you hear me?
But internal comms were now a thing of the past. All systems were effectively destroyed as they barrel rolled towards oblivion. On the bridge, Roman was pinned in his seat, thankful for the foresight to install a harness after a previous encounter. Drusilla was unconscious against the legs of her console, pinned to the floor by a 19-inch piece of metal skewering her leg to the deck beneath. Noah was gripping a bundle of wires from underneath his now destroyed console with everything he had left, and Samantha was doing the same. As the shock wave dissipated, the ship stopped rolling, but their momentum didn't. As the view screen flickered back into life, Roman was able to see a planet coming up fast. There was no way they could break free in time. He looked around the room at his crew, his friends. This was all his fault. He had led them into this, and now he was going to get them killed after all. As he tried to stand, a deafening screech echoed around them, and the ship shook violently to the side, sending Roman back down into his chair. As he watched, the entire rear half of the Bellevue flew past them on an altered trajectory, spilling crew members into space. As Roman looked on, he saw Hunter's lifeless body drift away from the wreckage, and moments later, it was incinerated as it entered the planet's atmosphere. That was it. The Bellevue was going down with all hands, and her captain.